I believe that an ancestral slash primal diet is the healthiest diet for us because whatever our ancestors ate, their bodies adapted to eating that food. So if you're going to copy their diet, you're basically just going to have the optimal performance. I see a big flaw. Grains right here. These should not be a part of this food pyramid at all. Not really any nutrients in grains. Second of all, we only started eating grains at around 10,000 years ago. Complex carbs, sugar, without any nutrients. We started eating less of this meat right here because we would hunt before, but now we switched to eating more of these grains and vegetables because we'd grow them ourselves, we'd cultivate those things. And what it led to was decrease in height, jaw malocclusion, crooked teeth. All of these issues are related to bone growth and development. So we can pretty confidently say grains, cultivated vegetables, it's not really quite ideal for us. And now we have a new and improved food pyramid. But there's still quite a bit of flaws. Vegetables, they're not very nutrient dense. They contain anti-nutrients actually, like oxalates, which bind to calcium in your gut, which can lead to worse bone growth if you're a teenager. Generally speaking, our ancestors wouldn't really eat lots of vegetables, or when they did eat vegetables, it wouldn't really be as bad for them because our ancestors would have access to a lot of these healthy ruminant animals. Our ancestors will be a lot better at digesting these vegetables than us. So we can basically just get rid of the vegetables. You could still eat some if you really wanted to. You could grow them yourself. Now you don't want to eat too much fruits because they can cause your body to age, your skin to age. 50% fructose, 50% glucose, and your liver has to convert the fructose to glucose. So if you ate a lot of fruits all the time, your liver would have to do a lot of work. We wouldn't have access to fruits all year round naturally. So the reason why you shouldn't eat bananas living in Europe at winter is because it will cause some issues in your body. And a YouTuber called Excellent Health explained this really well.
Let's say you eat a banana from Ecuador and you're in Austria. What happens? Well, you're getting the sun in Austria, you're getting the magnetic field in Austria, you're getting the water in Austria, you're getting everything from Austria, right? And then suddenly you get electrons that have been programmed by the sun in Ecuador. Your body just read Ecuador together with Austria now, and so there's complete chaos. Your mitochondria are you could say engines of the cell, but they do far more than that. When you eat, the food turns into protons and electrons. They read the electrons and they gain information about the environment from the electrons. When you give the Austrian the banana that has electrons that have been programmed in Ecuador, and this Austrian is completely optimized to Austria, what do you get? Chaos. You can go wherever you want to in the world, and you can eat locally. Actually, you must eat locally wherever you go in the world because the environment dictates your nutrition. And you also need to pay attention to the season. Even if apples grow in Austria during the summer, you can't freeze them and then eat them during the winter. And the reason is because sunlight consists of 42% red and infrared light, and that lowers your blood sugar. Which means that where fruits grow in the world, it's actually appropriate to eat them, while where it's very cold, where fruits don't grow, you can't eat them. That's why if the Austrian eats a banana at New Year's Eve, let's say, that's probably not a good idea. Lastly, we'll mention deuterium as well. Deuterium is a mitochondrial poison. See, your mitochondria are completely dependent on hydrogen to work optimally. Deuterium is an isotope of hydrogen, so another version of hydrogen, that's twice as heavy and twice as big. And so you have a spinning nanomotor in your mitochondria called the ATP synthase. It's basically a gun that goes like this and it shoots hydrogen. And that's one of the ways you create energy. Your hydrogen guns are optimized for normal hydrogen. What do you think happens when a deuterium that's twice as big and twice as heavy passes through this hydrogen gun that is optimized for normal hydrogen? It either slows down drastically or you destroy the thing. And what do you think is happening to your brain when you have excess deuterium in there? Brain fog, right? What do you think happens when you have excess deuterium everywhere? Tiredness, sickness, a bunch of chronic disease in general. At higher latitudes, so think Sweden, Finland, Norway, Russia, Canada, or Patagonia, etc., all those places, you have lower deuterium levels in the water, while at the equator, they're the highest. Fruits are high in deuterium. Fat is low in deuterium. Now think about what they eat in Siberia. Fat and protein, right? What I haven't told you is that sunlight depletes deuterium. And the people at the equator are eating more fruit in general because it grows there. So, has nature figured this entire story out for us? Yes, if you're at the equator and you're eating fruits, you can deplete deuterium because you have a bunch of sunlight, right? Well, if the guy in Austria eats non-local food, let's say a pineapple from Costa Rica in Austria, let's say during the winter, he can't deplete the deuterium. When you break nature's laws, you pay the price. The only reason you can eat non-locally is because we have technology that can transport food very fast from different parts of the world to other parts of the world. If you're living naturally, you cannot do that. You're only going to get food from your local environment. And that's how it has always been. That's how it's always been for any animal.
So this is what the perfect food pyramid looks like right here. But there is still one minor flaw. So we got coffee in here. I don't know why this person primally balanced, but coffee in here, it's just toxic seeds crushed up. Lots of raw steak. We got like raw liver, I think. Raw mince. We got like raw fish. And everything is raw right here. There's actually the reason why it's raw, and that's because when you cook food, you actually lose nutrients. Now, some people say that cooking increases protein bioavailability, but it's actually not true. And the reason why it's not true is because the study that proved this was actually done on eggs. But the thing is, egg whites, we got anti-nutrients. And when they cooked this egg, they found that the anti-nutrients were destroyed and the protein was actually able to be absorbed properly, right, without the anti-nutrients, proving that cooking actually destroys the compounds in foods. As you can see right here, we have raw milk, fat, we have like beef tallow, we got coconuts, I guess, if you really wanted to. Avocados, obviously the fruits and whatnot depends on your environment, whether you should eat them or not, and the time of the year. Now, raw milk is illegal, and what should I do? Raw milk has actually been proven to help with height growth because of the nutrients, and it stimulates IGF-1 growth hormone with the insulin. There's also a tribe where people drink raw milk for a year straight. Yes, that's true. They drink raw milk for a year straight sometimes and don't eat anything else, and they're absolute giants over there. So it's pretty obvious that raw milk does improve height growth, even pasteurized milk. We see countries like Estonia and the Netherlands where they eat lots of dairy, and as you can see, they're also some of the tallest countries in the world. So even pasteurized dairy, it's still like kind of decent, right? But raw milk is obviously way better, and there's also so many benefits to drinking raw milk. Fermenting it so you can get some beneficial bacteria. Is raw meat safe to eat? Basically, if the animal is healthy, you're not going to get sick from eating a meat raw. Read the labels on the meat, talk to your butcher if you're buying from a butcher. Just experiment with eating the raw meat in little amounts at a time to see how your body reacts. My parents don't let me eat raw meat, then what should I do? Ask your parents, like, hey mom, I want to eat raw meat. Like, they're obviously not going to agree. They're obviously brainwashed, or they haven't really watched the same YouTubers or read the same books as you have. They're obviously not going to agree with you, so you have to just do your own thing. You don't need to tell absolutely everyone that you're eating raw meat. Should I use salt and pepper for seasoning my food? And I think you should not use this salt and pepper, because it's essentially refined salt. It's just a rock grinded up, and it's got sodium in it. Sodium in itself, let's say you get it from raw meat, it's not bad, but if you get it from refined salt, it's just don't eat salt. And pepper, it's full of toxins, no nutrients. How many organs, or how often, how much organs should I eat? Now we have to listen to your body right here. If you start craving raw liver again after eating it, you should eat raw liver. Now, I personally know I eat raw liver every single day, like multiple 100 grams for like 4 days straight, I believe, and And I just didn't crave it anymore. I didn't want to eat it anymore. And you don't want to get vitamin A toxicity. If you ate organs like really often for a month straight, you will eventually get vitamin A toxicity. How to eat an animal-based diet as cheap as possible. And Excellent Health actually made another clip for this question, so let's roll it.
How do you save money while eating optimally? Well, you, hopefully, you recognize that animal foods are the most important part of the diet. You recognize that you should be eating locally and seasonally. And so you go into the grocery store already knowing what you're gonna buy. Or maybe even go to the farmer, which is even better. You'll probably get higher quality stuff at the farmer or maybe the farmer's market. And so you're automatically gonna be saving money because the things you buy are gonna be not too many things. You're gonna be eating 3 to 7 things maybe, depending on what you have access to, depending on the season, etc. So you're automatically gonna be saving money by doing that. Second is when you're buying meat, buy ground beef and also go to the butcher and buy neck bones and hip joints, feet, etc. and make meat stock out of that. The ground beef is usually cheaper, you've probably noticed that. And the ground beef is also superior. And the reason is because, let's say you have a cow, are you gonna make ground beef out of the ribeye or are you gonna sell the ribeye for a premium price? Obviously a premium price. So what are they making the ground beef out of? All the cuts that no one's gonna buy. And those cuts are usually tough and they contain more collagen. So buy the ground beef. It's gonna have more of the stuff you actually want for a cheaper price. That's why you buy ground beef. The only problem with ground beef is that it might not give your jaw as much of a workout. So maybe you should buy some other cuts here and there, whole cuts, straight cuts. For the meat stock, these cuts are not the cuts, but the bones are really cheap. And they do contain a good amount of meat on them, and also a lot of collagen. And then you boil this, simmer this for 4 hours, something like that, and you get this broth that is super collagen rich, super rich in nutrients, and you also have meat that you can pick off the bones. And that's, a pretty cheap meal that will last you several days. If you have a good butcher or for some reason you have access to animals, get the organs, okay? They're cheaper, they're way cheaper, and they're way more nutrient dense. So liver, you can do that, but just don't overdo it. You can't really make it a staple. You can't really eat large amounts of it every day. At least I don't recommend that. I do intestines, tripe, so stomach lining, brain, some kidneys here and there, bone marrow. All of that will usually be cheaper than just the straight cuts or the ground beef even, and you'll save a lot of money eating that way. If you're in Latin America or Asia, this will be easy. Canada, US, Europe, a bit harder. You'll have to look around a bit, unfortunately. If you're someone who buys bottled water, whether that's in plastic or in glass, go to the website, findaspring.org, I believe that's what it's called, and then look for a spring. It has a bunch of springs, natural springs, listed all over the world. Try to find one in your area, get water from there, you'll save money. And of course, buy glass jars, not plastic. During summer, never buy fruit. Never buy fruit. Go and pick it. Pick it yourself. You avoid the pesticide issue and you save a lot of money. Big cities have more EMF because there's more people living there, and also access to high quality food is pretty hard there, and it's more expensive. So if you have the opportunity to relocate to a town somewhere on the countryside where you still have internet and a bank and whatever you need, but you've got less people, you've got more farms around you, more nature around you, prices are cheaper, it's very easy to get high quality food.